for the slight delay. Welcome to the April 11, 2012 PDC Board of Commissioners meeting. Emily, please call the roll.
Chair Andrews?
Here.
Commissioner Dixon?
Here.
Commissioner Moelis?
Here.
Commissioner Strauss?
Here.
Commissioner Wilhoit?
Here. Everybody's here.
No, it's great.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick notes for the audience today. We have a very full agenda and two action items past the proposed education urban renewal plan that have to be dealt with today because they're time sensitive. So we are going to hold people to 3 minutes of testimony and appreciate your help with that. We move the meeting minutes down. Commissioner reports. I might just talk about a couple of items that came up. One, you probably noticed, commissioners, because you were not briefed. We didn't get far enough along with the Columbia biogas situation. There was never a commitment for that situation. I put it into the slot of the process worked. They came. They had some ideas. The mayor was very interested in trying to make this thing happen. We looked at it real hard, and at the end of the day, all of the parties actually to the transaction figured that it was better if it headed into to the private sector. So that's what happened. On a little more fun point, Patrick and I had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago to spend a few days on the East Coast. Patrick visited with the New York Redevelopment Agency. I know he's going to fill you in on that a little bit. And then I met him in Boston, and we met with the Boston Redevelopment Agency. It was an opportunity to, especially as we're looking at our future funding, to see how other organizations, what best practices are and what their sources of funds are and what their opportunities and problems are. We had great meetings with both. And then we were invited, Patrick and I, to present to the Harvard School of Design, the Graduate School of Design there, and had an interesting turnout. As it turned out, they were doing 3 seminars over a 4-week period. Tom Hughes was there for the first one, and he got to talk about the Portland planning effort in the urban growth district and how that all worked. We talked about PDC, the history, and what our current programs look like. And Mark Edlin was there last week to talk about how you act as a developer in this environment. So we ended up having to cut off the questions because we had to get out to the airport. I think they would have kept us there all afternoon. Right, yeah. And it was 80 degrees outside. I mean, if I was that age in graduate school and that wasn't a required course, I might have found something else to do that day. So we were quite impressed and happy to have 35 or 40 students in the audience. With that, Patrick, I'll turn it over to you. See if there's other commissioners have reports.
I don't have anything specific to report other than to say I'm happy to be here, and I wasn't invited on that fun trip back east, but we can talk about that later. That's my report.
Nothing, John? Steve? No. Patrick?
Thank you, Chair Andrews. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Before I add to the Chair's update on our trip east, I do just want to share the most exciting news of the day is that the City Council voted unanimously this morning to approve the 6 new neighborhood districts, the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative districts. We presented, Commissioner Dixon and I had the thrill of presenting the plan to City Council last week, and then that was the first reading, and then they voted on it today. So a lot of work culminating in a great moment. Obviously, this board took a look at those districts last month, and you recommended that the City Council approve those. So lot of work, but obviously the real work now begins. And if you'll indulge me, I really do just want to acknowledge a lot of the people that helped out with this effort. And I certainly want to start with not just this board and the City Council, but Chair Jeff Kogan and the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners also were incredibly strong supporters of this effort and have really hailed this as a new way for us to do a renewal. And so it's a great partnership that we've developed with the county that actually I think we'll hear about in a minute when we talk about the new education urban renewal area. But obviously a ton of work done by neighborhood groups. All the 6 neighborhood groups have been completely energized by this effort and have given many hours to this effort. I know Commissioner Dixon had a chance to tour all the neighborhoods and meet with the Rosewood folks and came away very impressed. But also a lot of PDC staff work, and I'm just going to read the list. Once again, hopefully you can indulge me in this, but just a really broad team effort. So Tony Barnes, Gina Bell, Faye Brown, Kimberly Branham. These are obviously alphabetical. We're in the B's. Lois Cortell, Kate Dean, Dana Decline, Justin Douglas, Yana Esmont, Amy Fleck-Rossetti, Lisa Gramp, Jolene Jensen-Clausen, Lorena Hernandez, Lene Hobson, John Jackley, Sarah King, Catherine Kaminsky, Lynn Knox, Ann Mangan, Morgan Masterman, Lisa Norwood, Adam Palachuk, I know I messed up his name, Claudia Plaza, Esty Siegel, Nixie Stark, Juanita Swartwood, and Robert Smith, Sean Ullman, and Keith Wachowski. That's a big percentage of the agency. But truly, folks across the spectrum, from finance and accounting to our GIS folks, to public participation, and of course our great neighborhood team led by John Jackley. So congratulations, everybody, and we've been working on 7 new urban renewal areas. So we have 6 down and 1 more to go. So as the chair mentioned, we did spend a week on the East Coast, and I did have the good fortune of meeting with the folks from the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and won't get into a lot of details here, but they do have a lot of lessons for us, both in terms of how they fund the organization, but also the different programs that they operate to, and they really do have a similar mission as us in terms of trying to grow the economy, and they have a very aggressive economic development strategy. Boston folks as well were very helpful. And then the only other highlight from our trip I want to point out is that the chair and I ran into the Portland Timbers in the airport in Boston. So we saw the whole, so they literally got off the plane that we got on, and because all the folks in the waiting area were from Portland, they had a big cheering section. So that was great. But the unfortunate thing is they haven't won a game since, so I don't really know if that's related at all. But back in March as well, we also had our software industry summit. We helped the Software Association of Oregon sponsor that, and the big news there was they unveiled the Techlandia website, techlandia.org, which PDC has helped establish, and that's meant to be the home of the software industry in the Portland region. If you go check out the website, it's a very cool website. Companies are signing up by the day, every day, and it's meant to be once again the place where the industry can come online and learn about each other and about the industry. Other news on last Friday on April 6th, the governor signed something called the Oregon Investment Act, and many of you may have read about that. It really was a state-led initiative. Treasurer Ted Wheeler was a big champion of this effort, but the state is undertaking an effort to rationalize all the different business assistance programs that they offer, and they exist across a number of different state agencies. And this is his first step in creating an investment board that will oversee all the state business assistance programs. And then over the next few years, I think what we'll see is a consolidation of programs, and it'll make it a lot easier for businesses that are looking for assistance from the state to access those programs and make it much more clear how decisions get made. So we're looking forward to working with the state on that, and I think in the next few years we'll try to figure out how we can add our programs to the mix to make it easy for businesses to do business in the state of Oregon. Other good news last Friday as well. The Beam Development announced that they had signed a lease with Cascade Energy, which will take about 25,000 square feet in the Convention Plaza building at the Burnside Bridgehead. So that's the deal that was approved last fall, and we asked Beam Development to go out and lease the building and begin the redevelopment of that. And so they're pretty much on their way in terms of leasing the space, so we can expect that project to begin shortly. And then just today, the chair and I had the honor of attending the unveiling of a living wall in the Rose Garden. The Trailblazers, along with a company called Corix, an international company that's involved in all sorts of infrastructure projects, have developed a partnership to make some improvements to the Rose Quarter that will be the first steps of an eco district in the Lloyd district. And so they began that by unveiling a large information wall in the Rose Garden. So when you go to Blazer games and other events, you can check out all sorts of information on the Blazers' efforts to make their facility more green, but also what the district, that area, which includes the convention center and the Lloyd district, the Memorial Coliseum as well, what's going on to make that an innovative place in terms of district-wide solutions around energy and water and whatnot. So that was a fun event this morning. Just a couple of upcoming events. I think it'll be mentioned later on, but we are having an open house for the public next Tuesday for the Education URA. That's going to be at PSU, so I invite anybody who wants to come and to hear about the district as well as ask questions. I think President Vivell and I will be there presenting on the district. Next week there's OEN's Angel Oregon Conference is also happening at the Governor Hotel. That's on the 18th. PDC has always been a sponsor of that event, and we view it as one of many events to generate interest as well as capital for local startups. Along the same line, there's also something called PDX Startup Weekend, when that's the end of the month, from the 27th through the 29th of this month, and that's another event that brings together a lot of entrepreneurs. And the goal is to start Friday with ideas and end up at the end of the day Sunday with businesses. And you'd be surprised what comes out of these weekends. Businesses like Audio Name that appeared before us a few months ago came from Startup Weekend, and it's amazing what can happen when people come together in 48 hours. A couple more things. I am actually heading to Washington again at the end of next week, along with Commissioner Nick Fish and a delegation of businesses. The White House has invited Oregon businesses to come to a jobs forum to discuss issues that are affecting businesses and small businesses here in Oregon. And so Commissioner Fish and I have the honor of leading that delegation, and we'll be able to present issues directly to folks in the Obama administration, and hopefully we can begin to align what's going on in Washington around the needs that we see locally. So that's a great opportunity. On the way back, I will be actually stopping off in Philadelphia and Cleveland to learn what they're doing and bring back some more best practices as well. And then the last thing is that PDC is a host and a sponsor of something called the Clean Energy Industry Forum the last week of April. It's the 27th of April. It's part of something called the Future Energy Conference, and PDC has been playing a big role in bringing together a number of large players in the clean energy space, including Iberdrola and others, to talk about issues facing the industry. And for us, our work with companies is a big part of how we're trying to make Portland a clean energy hub for the nation, but it's also putting on events that bring together leaders throughout the country to talk about these issues. So we're pretty excited about that event. And then, as I normally do, I do want to highlight a few new employees. We have two new employees to highlight. The first one just joined our accounting staff. Her name is Marge Villamarin. She's a new accountant. She spent 6 years working at Mercy Corps in a variety of accounting and finance positions. So she's obviously used to working in mission organizations. So it's a nice background. And she also has some pretty extensive audit experience working for Moss Adams. She's a Duck, so Chair Andrews would be happy to know that we're adding more University of Oregon grads here.
Nothing to do with it.
But she's also one of the great things about her is she's fluent in Tagalog. I think I said that correctly, but it's one of the major languages of the Philippines. So a unique skill set for us. I'm not sure how often we're going to be able to use that with our work, but maybe we'll make use of that. The second person I think is here. Is he hiding behind a post? There he is. This is Mitsuhiro Yamasaki, and he's been hired on our business and industry team. He will be a business and industry manager heading up both our clean tech team. Commissioner Strauss will be heading up our recruitment program as well. So I think you and Mitsu should get to know each other quite well, because I know that you've been waiting for us to get this position filled and to get somebody out there on the road. So you guys can be on a plane together to California next week.
Everywhere.
That's right. So Mitsu, as he goes by, comes from Texas, spent many years working on recruitment and other types of business development in Texas, mainly in the private sector, working for both energy companies and consulting firms and other firms to do business development. So brings in a great private sector background, but a lot of it's been around energy issues and clean tech issues. So a real asset to the organization, expand our skill set. And then just in this kind of language category, Mitsu is fluent in both Japanese and Spanish. So we're adding a ton of language fluency here at the agency. So that's a great addition. And then lastly, sorry, I know I'm running long here, but we also have an intern named Lorena Hernandez, who's been with us for 4 years while she went to high school at De La Salle High School. And she was accepted into Georgetown, and will be hopefully going to Georgetown, and she's also received a scholarship from the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. So we take interns from I think a lot of them from De La Salle. We've had interns here for many years. And some of them, like Lorena, are with us for a long time, and then we get to see the great results after it. So congratulations to Lorena. So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I just follow up quickly on one of the things I learned today at the Rose Quarter. I didn't realize it's the only facility of its kind, and I think on Earth, at least the United States, that has met LEED Gold standards. And they have a really extensive recycling program that includes composting all of the food waste, which I would imagine there is a little of at the end of a Blazer game. Yeah. With that, next item on the agenda are the meeting minutes. There are the minutes for our January 24th budget work session, which was off-site, and the March 12th commission meeting. Are there any changes, additions, comments? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes of January 24 and March 12.
So move.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. I looked through this. I think everyone who has signed up wants to testify over the next action item. I just want to make sure that I haven't missed anybody. So on item 6. Okay, perfect. All right, so we will move on then to the regular agenda. This is Report 1192, Resolution 6933, 6934, 6935, and 6936. Public testimony regarding the proposed Education Urban Renewal Plan, approving 2 minor amendments to the South Park Blocks Urban Renewal Plan, and approving an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County relating to the Education Urban Renewal Area. This is a little bit of a change in the agenda from what we had set out earlier. Patrick and I had a chance to talk about this given a number of comments and inquiries. It's not uncommon for us for a big proposal like this for us to take testimony and actually vote on it at the next meeting. So what we're going to do today is actually vote on the 3 supportive measures, and that's 6933, the 2 minor amendments, 6933, 6934, and also approve the intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County, which is 6936, which just authorizes Patrick to move forward. So none of those actually would go into effect if we did not end up approving the district itself. And I'd also point out that what we are doing is approving it in form and recommending to City Council that they approve it. As this body does not actually approve or disapprove. It only forwards a recommendation to City Council. So with that, and again, I would appreciate, given the amount of testimony that we're going to have today and the length of this proposal presentation, we're going to hold testimony to 3 minutes, okay? Keith Morgan. Tim Vevell, President of Portland State. Peter, can we pull up an extra chair for Peter?
You want Peter now, or you want him to come back?
Yeah, what we'll do is, we'll go through the presentation, and then following us, we'll have Peter and then John Talasco.
That's right. They're going to come up together. Perfect.
So, Chair Andrews, members of the board, Executive Director Quinton, Keith Witkowski, Deputy Director for the Portland Development Commission. And what we have today is actually a really exciting opportunity where you'll be looking at and hearing testimony on an urban renewal area that is, I think in some ways, more strategic than any urban renewal plan that this agency and this board has looked at least over the last decade. And we have Morgan Masterman, who's put in a ton of work with this, and then President Vevell, who's provided a lot of knowledge and inspiration and vision, and it's one of the reasons that we're here today. The Chair, you walked through what the essentially 4 resolutions are, so I'll do it very, very quickly, and then we can get into the actual presentation of the contents. The first resolution is kind of a clarifying amendment on how the South Park blocks plan can approve amendments, who approves what kind of amendment. It makes it consistent with actions you've taken over the last year or two with Airport Way and Downtown Waterfront and some other ones. The second second resolution is reducing South Park Block's urban renewal area by 58.4 acres. It would then subsequently be transferred into the education urban renewal area when it is approved and forwarded to the council on April 30th. The third resolution, I'm going slightly out of order, is the intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County that also involves Portland State University and the city of Portland, and it's one of the foundations of the urban renewal plan and one of the critical strategic partnerships that are being formed as this urban renewal area is providing about $19 million for a partnership between the entities, particularly between Portland State and Multnomah County, and we'll talk about that as we walk through the agenda as well. And then, of course, the hearing on the plan and the report for the education URA.
All right, thanks, Keith. Commissioners, Chair Andrews, Executive Director Quinton. First, I'd like to familiarize you with the key facts and boundaries of the proposed education urban renewal area. The proposed boundary encompasses 144 acres, has a maximum indebtedness or credit card limit, if you will, of $169 million, and a plan end date of June 30th, 2041. The boundary overlaps portions of 3 neighborhood associations, and as you can see on the map, a majority of the URA falls within the PSU University District. I also want to point out 3 parts of the boundary that we've received a lot of questions about. The first is in the northwest corner. You have the addition of the Lincoln High School campus. In the southern portion of the boundary, you have 2 properties that are owned by OHSU. They're currently being used as wet labs, and that's where a lot of their commercialization activities occur. And the third spot is in the center of the district. This is the intentional exclusion of the proposed Oregon Sustainability Center. That's remaining in the South Park Blocks urban renewal area through a connection via 5th Avenue. This is a very focused and intentionally strategic urban renewal area centered on economic developments in Portland State University with the partnerships of the county, Portland Public Schools, and many others. And Keith will elaborate on this theme later. So as Chair Andrews previously mentioned, one of the actions before you is to reduce the size of the South Park Blocks boundary. And as you know, properties cannot be in 2 urban renewal areas at one time. So the existing boundary you see in blue is the South Park Blocks boundary, and the outlined area is the proposed education district. About 58 acres of the proposed education urban renewal area is currently within the South Park Blocks URA, and that's what's shown in yellow. Although portions of the South Park Blocks urban renewal area have seen development and success over the years, a significant amount of the land being proposed to move to the education urban renewal area is still significantly blighted under the statutory definition. In part, this is because a majority of the South Park Blocks investments in this area were focused on transit improvements, which made PSU more accessible to the region. And President Vevell will discuss momentarily how this portion fits into the university's growth and expansion plans. So I just wanted to touch on blight for a moment. As you know, state statute requires that City Council find the proposed district as a whole is blighted. And the definition of blight includes properties that are stagnant and unproductive, as well as certain building conditions. This slide is intended to give you a sense of where blight exists based on these indicators. We can go into more detail if you like, and we also have PDC legal counsel present if there's particular questions about this. In preparing the urban renewal plan, PDC hired an outside firm to study the productivity of properties within the district, and this study, along with building condition data from PSU, results in the conclusion that more than half of the area is blighted based on statutory definition. And it's our expectation that PDC's investments in the proposed district will either directly or indirectly lead to the redevelopment and productivity of these blighted properties. And with that, I'd like to introduce President Vivell, who will talk about PSU's growth.
Thank you, Morgan. And Commissioners, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk about this wonderful initiative, which I think is really quite unique in the country in many ways, although there are some precedents in certain ways, but really helps affirm the role of Portland State as an anchor institution, an urban serving institution for the Portland metropolitan area. As you know, we've been growing very rapidly, and particularly in a time of disinvestment by the state, this kind of an initiative from the city is all the more important. Just as I came in as president, the university was in the final stages of developing its 25-year framework plan, which ultimately resulted in this publication. It's about sustainable development, which talked about how the university was going to grow in the future, and I'll come back to that in a minute. This urban renewal area is really an essential part of making that growth possible. We are already a big place, as I mentioned. Our regional economic impact is about $1.5 billion. We're one of the top 10 employers in the region. Our enrollment is 30,000. And very importantly, with the focus regionally in the city on export industries, we are actually a big export industry because we bring a lot of students. 20% of our student body is from out of state. They bring in probably about $50 million worth of spending every year into the region. In addition to that, we do $65 million worth of research a year. About $50 million of that is money from outside of the region. And both of these numbers will grow. Indeed, as we move forward, and as our framework plan suggested, we're now at about 30,000 students. If you combine the expected population growth for the region over the next 25 years, and the governor and the legislature's aspirations to have 40% of the population have a bachelor's degree, you would need a Portland State of 50,000 students to actually accommodate that population and that growth. And I suspect that we will indeed grow there at some point in the not too distant future. So that's what we're planning for here. That would require us to add about 4.2 million square feet of space. We're at 4.5 million square feet now, and we are extremely underspaced. We have less space per student or per faculty member than any institution in the Oregon University system. So to grow by 50,000, we would need to add something like 4.2 to our current about 4.5 million square feet of space. In addition to that, as Morgan pointed out, in that analysis, we looked at how much we could accommodate within some reasonable proximity to the current campus, and we found that because of the underutilization of a lot of the space, a lot of service parking lots, a lot of very low-rise buildings, that there was, in fact, quite a lot that we could accommodate right there. And then secondarily, we hope to have future buildings in the South Waterfront as well in collaboration with OHSU. In addition to growing and providing access to a broad range of students, we also see ourselves as a place that provides excellence for the region. As you know, you cannot be competitive in this world unless you have real excellence and innovation in selected areas. We have focused on things like sustainable solutions, our Institute for Sustainable Solutions, a lot of work on sustainability. Just a smaller and more specific example is our Food Industry Leadership Center, which has been working closely with the local food industry, has 200 majors enrolled right now. They've graduated over 100 students, which have universally being found jobs right away upon graduation. Our research has grew by about 60% in just the last 4 years, from 40 million to 65 million. We aim to grow it to about 100 million. And in growing our research and our educational programs, we focus closely on collaboration with the Portland Development Commission on its cluster target industries, particularly in the areas of software, clean tech, and advanced manufacturing, as well as the athletic and outdoors industry. And I could talk a lot more about the details, but in the interest of time, I'll move on. As I mentioned, in certain ways, what the city is doing here, proposing to do here, is unique, but it's not like nobody's doing things like this. Cities around the country are looking at the role of universities and research centers in promoting economic development. The largest recent example was in New York, of course, with Mayor Bloomberg's initiative to invite universities to build a whole new campus, because New York felt they didn't really have a world-class university. They just have places like Columbia and NYU and stuff like that.
Research university.
Yeah. So, fortunately, Portland is much better off already having two great research universities with OHSU and PSU. But this growth will enable us to really take on that role even more strongly. Again, we already are partnering with a variety of people. We are very proud of our Portland State Business Accelerator, one of our best-kept secrets. In 2010, that accelerator drew 60% of the venture capital funding that came into Oregon. And the biggest attractor there was a company called Design Medics that develops an anti-malarial vaccine, one of our faculty members. There are about 30 businesses in there, primarily in the health and life sciences and in software. Our Portland Business Outreach Program, run by our School of Business, just in the last 3 years assisted 169 primarily minority and small business companies with all kinds of business advances. And our students in general spend about 1.5 million hours per year volunteering across the region. So indeed, we are present in lots of places. We continue to be committed to partnering with the private sector. We have agreements in place with PGE, with Intel, with the metals manufacturing, with Tektronix, and we're talking to a whole range of other companies. And in the plans for this region, we are looking, for our university district, we're very much looking at mixed-use development. We do not want to create an enclave in the city. We want to be part of the city. And as you probably know, most of our recent projects are, at the very least, have retail on the ground floor, so we contribute to street life and vitality. And we would very much like to think about future buildings that would have both private sector tenants and the university in it. Obviously, the Sustainability Center will or would, I don't know what verb to use here exactly, be a prime example of that, and we still hope that we'll be able to do that. I want to just spend 1 minute talking about the picture here of the Academic Student and Recreation Center on the Urban Plaza, which gave a beautiful example of the use of urban renewal money. I think it has about $4 million of urban renewal money in it that was used to acquire the site and tear down the building that was on it. I think it was an old Blue Cross Blue Shield building. It's a $70 million project with money from our student fees. That's the biggest part that built the rec center. The Chancellor's office, to build the Chancellor's office there. Our money to build classrooms. And the city of Portland, which built its archives there. So I always like to say it's the only city archives located underneath a swimming pool. It's a very brave archivist that did that. But what is interesting about that project is that it was key to American campus community coming in and wanting to build a 1,000-bed student housing project just a few blocks away from that, because they felt that only because we had this strong rec center present could they really attract enough students to this fairly upscale apartment building. That apartment building will be paying about $700,000 or $800,000 per year in property taxes. So that was generated by this one-time investment of urban renewal money. And American campus community bought a lot across the street from that new building because they feel there's going to be an opportunity to build a second building. to me, one of the most direct examples of urban renewal leading to new private development. We all know that happens. You can't always trace it as precisely as was the case here. Finally, I want to just point to the partnership with Multnomah County. As you know, the intergovernmental agreement talks about a building that would be joint between us and the county, and we're very excited to move some of our social and health-related units into that joint building in about 10 years' time. The second thing is that we will create a joint task force where every year we will agree on research, evaluation, and training projects that we will then jointly seek funding for, that we will conduct for the county. But in a way, the most important thing isn't part of the intergovernmental agreement, but it's the point I've been making to the county commissioners, that having a highly educated citizenry is the best way to avoid the very costs that the county is responsible for. And these are just two statistics on here, but you could multiply it. You see how unemployment goes down the more highly educated people are. You know this. In fact, I just heard a recent number that even for recent graduates in the 25 to 34-year age group, people with a bachelor's degree have an unemployment rate of 4.5%. People with only a high school degree have an unemployment rate of 18.5%, 4 times as much. Similarly, the data on dependence on various public assistance programs. All you have to do is take one look. It goes down. The more education you have, the less dependence. You can have similar charts for things like incarceration, contact with the criminal justice system, drug dependency. So by allowing the university to grow and to educate more people from Multnomah County, yes, the county does forego some taxes. We know that. But they will, more importantly, forego a lot of expenditures in the years going forward. With that, I'll turn it back to Morgan and Pete.
Thank you. So what I will do is run through these last few slides very quickly. And I think what you've heard from all this is that, in the past, particularly in areas of the downtown, PDC has made a number of livability-oriented investments. And what this is kind of this unprecedented opportunity to blend the real estate development with an economic development investment in PSU with our other partners to benefit the entire region. And there's essentially 5 pillars, and you kind of look around this circle here, and I won't read them off to you, but we'll walk through them very quickly of how we're going to do this and how we're going to prioritize the investments and the actions we're going to take. In addition, obviously, the housing set-aside will apply to this district, and so they'll see upwards of $45 million over the next 30 years to invest in housing as well. So what we envision is this opportunity and kind of this continuum and progression of a district where with their strategic partnerships, we can work with Portland Public Schools and PSU and make an investment in Lincoln High School in that campus. It's not dense when you look at the floor area ratios and the height allowances, and there's a lot of opportunity to create income-generating opportunities for Lincoln. It'll enhance the educational environment as the physical development follows. Then what we're seeing occurring is the partnerships that President Vale talked about with Portland State as they take on a much more aggressive research and commercialization agenda. What you're going to see, like other cities that have taken this approach, is a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurial activities, a lot more business growth, and a lot more ideas, and it's going to become a place where people are going to want to locate companies, where private development is going to get triggered as well. You look at the cluster industries that the president talked about. You talk about the number of surface parking lots. I think there's roughly like 10 acres. We've got proven private developers down there, and people like Bob Nato, people like John Russell. We want to see better facilities for laboratories. We want to see innovation through district energy. And we want to see a number of other things that I think are going to really make this area of town very exciting over the next few decades. So the executive director talked at the top of the meeting briefly about what comes next in terms of both hearings and opportunities for public participation. The open house, as he talked about, next Tuesday at 5:30. We'll be meeting with the Planning and Sustainability Commission. There's also going to be a meeting convened by the mayor and President Vale of the original Central City Evaluation Committee that originally looked at a district that was over 300 acres and a maximum indebtedness in excess of $300 million about 2 years ago, and was told, come back, we want to see something much more focused, much more strategic, with much broader benefit. And so it'll be a chance for that group to hear firsthand from the principals about what this plan is today and what's being proposed. And then I'll return to you on April 30th for your action, followed by City Council. So,
Well, I think what we'll do, as always, I have lots of questions and comments, but we'll hold those and get through the public testimony. And I think everybody will call the three of you back at that point. I hope President Vivell can stay for that. So we'll call up Peter Pariseau and John Teskloff, the Economic Development Director for Mayor Adams and the Economic Development Mayor for Multnomah County. You want to arm wrestle to see who goes first?
I defer.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Peter Pariseau, Chair and Use Commissioners and Executive Director Quinton. Thank you for this opportunity to testify before you today. On behalf of Mayor Adams, I want to thank the PDC Board for beginning the formal approval process that positions the city to have a world-class research university in our backyard. Under the leadership of President Vivell, the Portland Development Commission, we are confident that the Education URA can deliver on its objectives. The partnerships that will be formed between the county, Portland Public Schools, PSU, and PDC are an essential component to this URA. And through those partnerships, the entire region will see benefit from the investments contemplated by the URA plan. We are proud that this URA is among the most strategically focused of any district formed to date. Additionally, Mayor Adams has consistently pointed to educational attainment and increasing graduation rates as an important issue for his administration. This URA is particularly significant for our office, not only for the higher education component, but for the implications that it will have on K through 12 as well. As we've already heard today, this URA is founded upon the partnerships that have been formed around a singular tax increment agenda before. The county, PSU, and Portland Public Schools will be better positioned to deliver a workforce that benefits the region and provides Portlanders with yet another quality option for education and job development and development of job skills. Lastly, I want to thank the PDC staff who have worked so hard on this plan and district. Keith Wachowski, Morgan Masterman, Allison Schwieger, Lisa Norwood, Lisa Alboff, and Chris Harder, as well as the PDC GIS team. I know personally how hard they have worked on this project, and I want to commend them for their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. John.
Good afternoon, Chair Andrews, Commissioners, Executive Director Quinton. My name is John Talaska from Multnomah County. I'm the Economic Development Director for Chair Jeff Kogan, who sends his regrets that he can't be here today. But I want to convey his message that he enthusiastically supports and is very excited about this urban renewal area. It's much like the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative that you unveiled recently. It's an exciting next step in the evolutionary process and innovation for urban renewal. And I want to talk just briefly about two aspects of that. The first is that the benefits of this URA, which we're very excited about, flow well beyond the URA boundaries. Of course, the investments, as we all know, have to be made within the boundaries, but the benefits accrue to everyone within the region. At its heart, the URA focuses on, as we've heard, expanding PSU's capacity to serve more students. And serving more students means more residents get higher education, as President Vivell pointed out. And that's a good thing overall for the economy. Better educations, better jobs. But equally important is that it raises the overall bar of the workforce here within the region, and that helps to attract companies and to create jobs. The other thing that the investments in this area do is that it helps to advance PSU's research capabilities and create strategic partnerships with private industry. All of these things are exciting from our standpoint because then PSU becomes a real economic driver for the region. It is not just a place then to prepare students, but to actually generate economic activity and entrepreneurship and regional economic success. Which brings me to my second point, which is, as we at the county know, regional economic success is not necessarily the same thing as economic success for everyone in the region, which is why we're especially pleased with Mayor Adams and the work of people at all the staff at the city, at PDC, and at PSU from a process standpoint of involving the county and pulling us in to these conversations and finding common ground of how we can actually work together to make this a stronger, fairer urban renewal area that has potential to benefit everyone in the region all up and down the economic ladder. To that extent, I want to build on President Vivell's comment about the co-location of a county facility. We have in mind the Department of County Human Services with their strengths in social work and complementary academic programs. That, from our standpoint, with the assistance of the revenues from the urban renewal area that PDC is bringing to the table, will help lower our operating costs. And that means for us, we deliver more services to more people rather than spending them on operations. It goes beyond that and has real strategic value in that by working with PSU under the research that President Vivell outlined, we can help keep this area on the cutting edge and moving the state of the art of what it means to actually create programs that deliver broad community benefits. And I think that's something that is truly a reflection of the community's values, that everyone ought to have the opportunity to succeed. And this kind of a partnership, which is made possible by the URA, helps to move that community value to a community reality. And so with that, I will conclude and merely say that, again, we certainly support the IGA and urge you to approve that. And the chair appreciates the partnership that has gone into this, and because of all the public benefits that this brings to the broad community, is very pleased to be supporting this urban renewal area. So thank you.
Well, thank you both. Before you step away, I just want to say personally, I really appreciate all of the time and effort that the two of you have put in, as well as Mayor Adams and Chair Kogan. I've sat in on a number of meetings over a number of months where there's been a lot of discussion about how can we bring this partnership together with Portland State and create something that is meaningful for everybody. And it's never an easy process. Nobody ever gets everything that they want. But I'm really pleased that at the end of the day that we've come to something that everybody's comfortable with, and I think is going to provide a great benefit to the city of Portland over the next 20 years. So thanks for your help.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will go into public testimony, and again, we're going to have to, we're going to have to hold testimony to 3 minutes. So if you think you might go over and you've heard the comment earlier, you might just say, I agree with so-and-so. That might be helpful. We'll start with Wayne Lay, Sandra Shotwell, and David Yudkin.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to say a few words, describe Portland General Electric's partnership with Portland State University. I am Wayne Lay. I direct the Research and Development program for Portland General Electric. Prior to that, I spent a number of years as Director of Environmental Policy, and then a few decades or so in nuclear power, both in commercial power and then with the United States Department of Energy. I've had a pretty broad background both in private and public sector, and I think I am somewhat qualified to speak to this very important partnership. We believe that both PG and the city are truly fortunate to have a diverse and thriving academic institution like PSU within its service boundaries. In the past 3 decades, PG has collaborated with the faculty and researchers on a wide variety of subject matter, and this has included urban planning concepts such as some of the very first roof gardens, as they were called back then, or now eco-roofs. More recently, mass introduction of electric vehicle infrastructure. They have done work with us in technical support of our power plants through material science applications, performance analysis of our main steam isolation valves at a couple of our power plants. Yes, you do not want to be around them when they go off, and so we really do want them to go off at the right times. Very grateful for that support. And they've also helped us with the biology of the ecological impact of coal dust dispersion. More recently, renewable power applications focusing on solar photovoltaic installations and some of the constraints that you have in an urban setting. And very recently with some of our biomass work in using it to displace coal at our power plant. Energy efficiency research, and then most recently also a very comprehensive look at sustainability assessments, including looking at our low-income segment, dispatchable standby generation, and then urban settings for ecosystem services valuation. Now, I share all this mostly just to emphasize how handy it is to actually have a university of this quality and a character just 10 blocks away from our headquarters. It's really quite something. And it should come as no surprise that other private sector companies avail themselves of this resource, and several even more so than us. To pursue this even more, PSU and PG have agreed formally to continue and expand this important relationship. We have a long-term strategic partnership that enhances the economic, social, and environmental sustainability of the region as its main goal. Our common vision is that we will be focusing on urban mobility, integration of energy and sustainable design, and we have a variety of examples for that. But what I really wanted to emphasize is that if you really want to take a look at some of the possibilities here, take a stroll down the Electric Avenue, the nation's first curbside options for charging electric vehicles. Take a look at the names of the companies and the suppliers. You'll note that a fair number of them, if not almost all of them, are not from this region. If we're successful doing this, and they continue to see Portland and Oregon leading this charge, they will probably locate their businesses here. And we are thinking that that's leadership, that's first mover advantage, that's good leverage, and it's very much consistent with the proposal before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra.
My name is Sandy Shotwell. I'm Chief Operations Officer and co-founder of Design Medics. You heard President Vivo talk about Design Medics as one of the companies that has been built on technology developed in Portland State's chemistry department, Dr. David Payton. And we are an example also of a successful spin-out from the university that has leveraged a private investment, an investment from the ecosystem here of angel investors, Oregon Angel Fund, and we were successful in winning the Angel Oregon competition in 2009. And we've leveraged that 3, and we're now approaching 4-fold with dollars from outside of the state that we have brought in from federal funding, and also the state's, one of the signature research centers, ONAMI, has given us a grant. What do? We are developing a cure for malaria. This was developed at Portland State University, and some of our collaborators at OHSU, we've also brought in a technology from there, which is a product that will actually be a preventive that you might take if you were traveling to a region where malaria exists. Design Medics has created living wage jobs in the area. We support local suppliers. We have benefited. First, Portland State was generous enough to lease us space in their laboratories, and then when the Portland State Business Accelerator was developed with support from PDC, thank you very much, we were able to, you saw a picture of one of our laboratories on the PSU slides. We have a laboratory space there. I'm now helping, this year alone, 3 other companies get started, one from OHSU, two from PSU. Every one of them, if they're successful in getting the small business grants that Design Medics got, will need a laboratory. The laboratories at Portland State Business Accelerator are now full. So it's just an example of how quickly build it and they will come, how quickly these facilities are filled, how needed they are, and how vibrant the small startup community is that can benefit from this kind of partnership between the university, private industry, and the city.
Thank you. David.
Hello, I'm David Yudkin. I'm co-owner of Hot Lips Pizza. Hot Lips has been in the PSU neighborhood since 1986, and in large part, our business is based on the health of the university, and we have grown as the school has grown. I'd like to note that there's a significant part of the current inventory of retail space is limited and aging. And while Hot Lips did participate in the last storefront, the PDC storefront improvements, I sensed from my fellow merchants that they were reluctant to participate. And I think it was a combination of not only a slow economy, but also the question of what is going to happen to the spaces that they occupied. We would have liked to have further upgrades and look forward to that opportunity. But I'd also like to note that we not only service the university, but the downtown area. And during this growth stage, PSU and the developers have done a very good job of continuing access for our vehicles and with transit, and improving transit. But it is also vital to keep that link when we have resultant space at the end of the development. As a Portlander and as a neighbor, it's clear to me that the vitality of PSU and the campus is key to the success of Greater Portland, both economically and socially. And I came today to voice my support for the creation of the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank all 3 of you. Sam Pardue, Tom Turnbull, Wendy Rahm.
So I'm Sam Pardue. I'm the CEO and founder of Indo Windows. We're a clean tech manufacturing company based in North Portland. We currently have 14 employees, about 10 FTEs. We expect to roughly double that number in the coming year. We manufacture a thermal window insert that presses into place on the inside of your window frame to give you double pane window performance at a fraction of the cost. So we're offering our customers an affordable way to make their homes much more comfortable, to dramatically cut their energy costs, and to also reduce the amount of noise coming through the windows by 50% or more. So we've benefited extensively from our interactions with Portland State University. First, we received a $73,000 grant from Oregon Best, which is funded work being done by Portland State University's Green Building Research Laboratory. They've done laboratory testing of our product, which has allowed us to make performance claims, which is very important to us. They're also conducting pilot deployments of our product out in the city in cooperation with PGE, Northwest Natural, McMinnville Power and Water, and Clark County PUD. So PSU's Green Building Research Laboratory is a key partner for us. We've also benefited from a relationship with FUR, which is Portland State University's student-run advertising agency. They've done market research for us. They've developed a postcard mailing campaign for us, some marketing materials for us, and they're going to be filming some customer testimonials which were used on our website and other marketing. Finally, last fall, Portland State University's Masters of International Management Capstone Project did a United States market potential survey for us, looking at what parts of the country would be best suited for our market to help guide our national expansion strategy. And we're going to do another follow-on project with another Masters of International Management class this summer, and they're going to look at the international potential for our products. So when we expand overseas, we'll know best where to go. So we definitely support the expansion of the Education Urban Renewal Plan because it seems to be really what's required to help Portland State University reach its considerable potential. You know, businesses and our broader society also have a great interest in having a highly educated workforce and citizenry. So I think, you know, in addition to those core things, there's obviously very many specific ways, more diverse than most people might imagine, where businesses can benefit from their relationship with Portland State University, and expanding their facilities is going to increase the potential there. So, of course, we hope that Portland State will put Indo windows into all of their older buildings as they expand. The natural culmination of this relationship. So we're going to be in Angel, Oregon next week in the finals, so wish us good luck, and we appreciate our time and our opportunity to be here today to testify in support. Thank you.
Thank you and good luck.
Hello, my name is Tom Turnbull, and I am a co-founder of a company called Open Sesame. Open Sesame is based in the Portland State Business Accelerator. So what I wanted to do was to outline some of the ways that we have benefited by being in the accelerator and some of the connections that we have with Portland State. Open Sesame is an e-learning marketplace. We're the largest provider of off-the-shelf online training courses focused on the corporate market. We've grown a lot in the last couple of years since we've launched. We now have the world's largest catalog of e-learning content with about 12,000 different courses. So we're hoping that the City of Portland and PDC make use of the great resource that we've built. But we now have 17 employees. 12 of those are here in Portland at the accelerator. We have 2 interns from Portland State that are going to be starting this summer. One is a software developer and one is a business intern. So that's one of the ways that we've started to work with Portland State. There's a great degree of networking within the accelerator itself. So we've made connections with other companies that are there. We've shared investor leads. We've answered questions for each other. It's really a great resource and helps all of the companies that are there to grow. One of the things that we've done that has been really helpful for us was we partnered with the MBA program at Portland State and had a team of students, MBA students, do a market analysis study for us, which was really helpful for us, and we continue to use some of the data that they generated for us in our investor presentations today, and it was very, very helpful, excellent work. One of the things that is really helpful is mentoring resources that we've been able to take advantage of within the accelerator. So we won the Angel, Oregon competition last year, which we were very proud of, but I think one of the reasons that we were able to do so well in that competition was that we had a mentor who was introduced to us through the accelerator that helped walk us through that process, helped us put together our investor presentation materials, helped us practice our pitch, and I think that was a big benefit for us, again, tied directly to Portland State. And one of the things that we're doing now that's really interesting, so we offer e-learning courses. So we've started to work with professors from Portland State who are interested in creating e-learning courses for sale into the corporate market. So we have 3 professors who are working with us. One has actually added about 25 different courses so far, and another one on the other end of the spectrum is just starting. So great connections, and we're big fans of the accelerator and the connections with Portland State. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Wendy Rom, and thank you very much for letting me come speak. I'm on the Land Use Transportation Committee of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, and I'm on the Elliott Tower Board. However, I'm here representing only myself as the organizer of a PDC briefing on the fabulous education URA at the Elliott Tower. And I appreciated PDC coming to give the briefing at the Elliott. It's a big tower, 229 units, 400 people. However, I was troubled by the fact that this briefing was used as a checkoff for PDC outreach. Many of the 56 people who attended were dismayed by the lack of detail presented and by their questions for more specific details going essentially unanswered. To be fair, I think our presentation was early and therefore maybe perhaps premature, but there were a lot of concerns expressed about that after the meeting. Some of those concerns were about the lack of details for the 30% set aside for affordable housing, and we did have somebody from the Portland Housing Bureau there. We are supportive of affordable housing, of course, but we believe that any additional units need to be on the east side of the park blocks. Looking at the map with affordable housing marked, and I hope you all have one of those. I ask that that be passed out. You will see the very high concentration in this part of the map that is marked for residential. This area, as you can see, has, if not the highest, one of the highest concentration of affordable housing in the city. Neither urban planners nor social planners would advocate for such a high density of low-income housing in one concentrated area, yet that is the main area marked for this housing on the URA proposal. I have also been attending Central City 2035 meetings for the last 2 years, and that group is calling for more workforce and family housing, which of course we welcome in the downtown area. A person from Julia West House reported that high concentrations like this make it far more difficult for their clients to rehabilitate successfully. So with that in mind, it would be useful for us to get more details on the Portland housing intentions and for all of you to work together on this. As a result, I would urge you to postpone your final vote to recommend until there are many more details provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your time today, all of you. Eric Fruits, James Werner, Robert Wright. Vim that this is going to welcome.
Thank you. Chairman Andrews and Commissioners, Director Quinton, my name is Eric Fruits. I'm a local economist and chair of my neighborhood association. First, I'd like to remind you of something you already know. I've provided you a map of the proposed education urban renewal area. The map shows that more than half of the proposed urban renewal area overlaps with the South Park Blocks, URA. It seems clear to me that if you declare this area blighted, then you've admitted that 20 plus years of urban renewal and PDC management have failed the South Park Blocks. If blight remains after 20 years of urban renewal, then you have an obligation to leave the casino rather than double down on our tax dollars. If, on the other hand, you believe that the South Park Blocks, URA, has succeeded, then let's celebrate our success and move on to the areas of the city that truly demand urban renewal efforts. The next issue regards Lincoln High School. I provide you a chart on the other side of the map. You'll see that Lincoln students are housed in one of the best buildings in the Portland Public Schools portfolio. Sure, the school is crowded, but crowding is a PPS self-inflicted wound. For example, my kids, along with 700 others, are crowded into a school that 5 years ago had only 535 students. And that school, Laurelhurst, is considered to be the worst condition of all schools in the district. It's not that the building is too small, it's that PPS implemented a K-8 program that was designed to create overcrowding. Lincoln's crowding could be solved in part by realigning Lincoln's boundaries to bring in fewer students. It doesn't need a new school. Even the district itself does not view rebuilding Lincoln as a priority. Rebuilding Lincoln was virtually ignored in last year's $500 million bond that failed. Even with the approximately $14.5 million in urban renewal money, PPS would still be on the hook for what it estimates to be $100 million or more in construction costs to rebuild Lincoln. That's $100 million to rebuild a school that does not need to be rebuilt when other schools are in bad, bad shape. I do not understand the complete turnaround today that makes rebuilding Lincoln such a priority that it can leapfrog over other schools that are in much more dire need of modernization. It borders on shameful that the most affluent high school in PPS can peel itself off from the rest of the district and cut a deal with the city and PDC. My final point regards timing. Over and over again, we have seen the city rush to implement programs, big and small, only to see them fail in the face of haste. There's no need to rush through this urban renewal area. Portland State's not going anywhere. It will continue to grow and prosper, even if this urban renewal area is given more time to undergo the Portland process that we value and take so much pride in. Lincoln High School will continue to be the public ivy of the PPS portfolio, even if it does not get new covered grandstands that have been shown in the slides for another 10 years. I've been to several candidate forums, and it's clear to me that there is a wide range of views on this urban renewal area, even among the frontrunners. Thus, as a commission, you owe it to a new city council a thoughtful and cautious deliberation of this proposed urban renewal area, even if it means slowing down the runaway train. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you for the opportunity to go ahead and testify in front of the board. I'm going to make this very short. I'm not going to use anywhere near 3 minutes because I totally agree with most of the things that Wendy had to say. One thing that I missed,
I'm sorry.
My name is Jim Werner.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things that I really want to urge you to consider is extending the time limit on even talking about and voting on this bill, because I think, it's something that the neighborhoods that are affected by it have not had the opportunity to get any meaningful information on what is happening, what's going to be used for, what the money is going to be used for. It's sort of like, give us $160 million, we promise we'll use it well. Well, we've heard that before. So I really just urge you to consider stretching out this time limit and doing a little more outreach into the neighborhoods that are going to be affected. Take care of me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak before the PDC Council. I'm Bob Wright. I'm a proud native of Portland, Oregon, graduate of Benson High School and the University of Portland, 27 years in the Air Force, 11 years on the Beltway in D.C., never finally returned to God's country. And I'm retired in the West End. So I have more than just a partial passing interest in Portland. I've seen great improvements in the time I've been away. So city councils and PDC development have been very effective since I left in 1966. The EDURA plan, education URA plan, was rolled out at our building in the Elliott Tower, and we really appreciate your staff coming and briefing us. And like Wendy Rahm had said, we were looking for more information. I'm not sure what can be made available at this date. And then at the Portland Downtown Neighborhood Association, a similar briefing was given, questions were asked, but still there was a lot of concern, and I'm speaking just for myself, but people have come up to me that they would like to know more. And I agree with gentleman to my left. The affordable housing issue, for sure, the city needs to provide affordable housing, probably to the people who most need it. The question is, and I'm not an urban planner, is where do you put the housing? What is the effect of good urban planning? And how far from the good urban model that's being developed in Central City 2035 are we deviating, or the potential to deviate from, by the implementation of the education URA? Certainly, the education URA is very exciting to me. I'm very familiar with Research Triangle Park. I'm a techie nerd, and so I can see the synergy of such things, and I see great potential in that. However, I think more time is needed to get public involvement so that there's not just comfort, but some reliable expectation of what's happening where a lot of people live. I notice the Housing Bureau is not here. I'm not sure if that's intentional. I'm not sure how much detail the Housing Bureau can provide at this early date, but at least a notional plan, either by block or building, what is projected in 5-year increments so we have a better understanding what can be done or what's intended. We like the idea of the vibrant Research Triangle Park, I hate to use that again, being right to our south. But I really strongly recommend that this train, I hate to do the runaway train, but it's moving pretty fast for $169 million to be put back into this area and not available to Multnomah County and to schools, that more time be thoughtfully done. I agree that Portland State's not going away, Lincoln High School's not going away, I'm not going away, and a lot of residents are not going away. But I think we've got to be careful that we continue to attract people to the downtown to relieve the pressure on the urban growth boundary. People must want to come downtown to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you. William Barnes, Felicia Williams, Laney Block-Wilker.
Hello, Felicia.
Hi, Bill. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Felicia. Hello, my name is William Barnes, private citizen. I come down here from time to time. I want to welcome you, sir. First time I've seen you. Welcome. I was at a meeting with Chair Cogan this morning, and I talked to Jeff. Second time this week, we talked to Jeff about this, and he's still highly supportive of it. So thank you. And I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. I have read the report and the 4 resolutions concerning this urban renewal area. I have no problems with that. My problem is this. Portland State University is a public university. It was built with public funds for the public good. Portland State enforces a policy that, outside of special events, only students, staff, and faculty are allowed on the campus. This is a violation of state law. If you are not a student, staff, or faculty member of Portland State and are found on the campus, you are issued a criminal trespass warning by Portland State's Office of Public Safety. This criminal trespass warning bars you from entering any Portland State building or property for a period of 2 years. The criminal trespass warning is used to state the hearing process and how you could apply for an appeal. They no longer state that. Under state and federal law, a hearing must be granted when someone's liberty interests have been infringed upon by a governmental body. To my knowledge, no hearing has ever been granted by Portland State's Office of Public Safety with regards to their issuance of these criminal trespass warnings. This is a violation of the 4th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. I don't think a city should fund the growth of an institution that openly violates the rights of its citizens. We must bring everyone up together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Laney Block-Wilker. I'm an attorney, a PPS parent, and an education advocate. I co-founded a grassroots pro-schools coalition called Learn Now, Build Later that supported the Learning Levy, but has proposed a better PPS facilities bond that is linked to an educational plan and to job creation. My 2 daughters attend Laurelhurst School, which has the worst facility condition index in Portland Public. It is ranked at 83%. That is twice as bad as Lincoln High School. It has high collapsibility. We also lack a science lab, technology instruction, and core curriculum. So when we're talking about a skilled workforce, let's look at what's happening with K-12. Our neighborhood grant, we have thousands of high school students warehoused in cafeteria study halls, and they cannot get advanced math or science classes to prepare them for college or for careers in a knowledge-based economy, because we are spread too thin across 85 campuses to offer core curriculum. The other 84 schools across Portland Public are in awful condition and are facing devastating cuts. We are on the brink of destroying a decent K-12 public education in Portland. This will drive middle-class families and businesses seeking a skilled workforce from this city. If you rebuild Lincoln High School, which is the richest and best high school in Portland with urban renewal money, this city risks leaving thousands of students in unsafe buildings without core curriculum. There are two issues here. If the West Side gets a new high school through urban renewal, we may never pass a facilities bond to serve kids and improve infrastructure throughout the city. The second issue is if another urban renewal district is created, we're going to lose more of our tax base from schools and social services, which are already critically underfunded. Treasurer Ted Wheeler understood this when he was Multnomah County Chair. Urban renewal is devastating funding to our social services. I'm asking you to slow down so we can weigh the costs and benefits before locking in a bad decision that could hurt public education across the city. Mayoral candidates have stated that they want to revisit urban renewal and help pass a better PPS facilities bond. I know we are all hungry for construction jobs, but it would be short-sighted to destroy K through 12 education across the city to rebuild the richest high school. Lincoln should be part of a larger strategic plan to improve education across the city. Our Smart Schools Coalition actually has a well-designed plan for a facilities bond that would conserve costs, boost rigor, raise graduation rates, and allow equitable access to college prep and to workforce training. This plan calls for 6 robust high schools plus reinvigorating Benson's successful vocational technical program to link that program to target job creation clusters. And we're talking computer technology, advanced manufacturing. That program has been halved by this district. I'm asking you to please serve the whole city and not a limited West Side project. Thank you. And may I give you copies of our plan?
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Felicia Williams. I'm the chair of the Downtown Neighborhood Association's Board of Directors. And I really want to thank Keith Witkowski and Morgan Masterman from the PDC for reaching out to us and keeping us involved in this process along the board. We also met with Mark Gregory of Portland State University earlier today, and he was able to really flesh out some of the concerns that we had about what was happening where in the urban renewal plan. As a neighborhood association, we are very excited about the potential of the urban renewal area, but a significant amount of it, 30%, will be set aside for housing. We haven't been able to get any information from the Housing Bureau, and we are asking to delay this decision until we can get an answer to these specific questions. What and where are the housing investments being considered by the Housing Bureau? Further, in the resolution, there's also a committee that's set up. And we don't know, it doesn't specify in there, is it an advisory committee or an oversight committee? And how are people getting picked to be on these committees? And finally, this is just personal observances on the plan. As a resident of the URA area and as a person who actually works in one of the sectors that you guys are talking about, I work for one of those OHSU biotech spinoff companies. There are some problems with the technology transfer offices. And you might need to get a state legislative action to streamline the technology transfer process in order to make sure that you can actually get the economic value that this URA actually does promise. The second observation that I have is this ambitious plan for PSU could be undercut by low faculty pay. Students are going to stop paying if they can't guarantee a bag for their buck. So you really need to think about what kind of quality you're presenting in terms of the university. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So, shall we bring up our 3 presenters to begin with? And I know President Vivell doesn't have much in the way of time, so if any of the commissioners, in particular Keith, Morgan, have questions for the president, I think that because of his time frame, we ought to go there. And actually, in terms of the kind of questions that came up, I didn't see one that was necessarily aimed directly at you. Charles?
Yes, I'll make a comment, and then I'll ask President Vivell a question. First of all, thanks for taking the time to join us today. I had the good pleasure and privilege of serving on the search committee that brought you to Portland. And I'm not saying that to get a pat on my back. I'm saying that to say thank you for accepting, because one of the things we talked about during the search process when we came to your resume was this person is a visionary and this person is bold. And that's what we're talking about here today. We're talking about making an investment in PSU that we expect will generate significant returns for both downtown Portland and the entire state of Oregon. And the only point I heard raised from the comments that came up that related specifically to PSU may require your counsel to answer, but the issue of access to the campus. I serve as the board chair at OHSU. And when you look at a facility, safety is an issue, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity, if you wanted to take it without counsel with you, to respond to that particular issue.
Obviously, our campus is open to anybody to come in, including all of our buildings being open. The only time when our public safety officers would issue a citation if somebody is engaged in disorderly conduct or some form of illegal conduct. Beyond that, I suspect all of you have at times been on our campus. I don't think any of you are faculty, staff, or students presently, and I don't think any of you have ever been issued a citation. So I'm not quite sure what the issue is that the gentleman was referring to. Our public safety officers issued citations when there is a problem. But one of the joys to me of the Portland State campus is that it, on the one hand, has an identity, so people kind of know they're on the campus, but at the same time, it is the city. One of the funny areas where that becomes a problem is that some of our students want us to declare the whole campus a no smoking zone, but we have to keep reminding them that we actually do not own the streets that connect the campus. It's city property, so we cannot just do that. We are proud of being very open to everybody.
And you're probably equally proud to have that person sitting to your left, because people probably don't know that Morgan is a graduate of Portland State University. It's got to be pretty exciting to see a graduate presenting an option that could make a significant investment in the school and in the city. So thanks. That was the only question I had for President Vival on points specifically related to PSU.
Just for the president, anything in particular?
Not a comment, a question.
Just for the president? Because he needs to go, that's why. Then we'll come back.
Just 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Right. Well, first, thank you, President Vival, and for the vision that you provided. I think it's absolutely spectacular, and I want to say right off, I'm a gigantic supporter of this new district. I think there's some improvements that need to be made, and I think there's more public process that needs to be gone through, but we can get started now, and we can make those improvements as the process evolves. I haven't participated in the closed-door high-level meetings. It's above my pay grade, but I have participated in every public meeting that took place in this room. I went out into the neighborhoods. I traveled on the bus. I visited with people, and so I've got a lot of reaction like we've got from today. And with all that reaction, I think overwhelmingly this is a great thing for the city of Portland because it is going to bring jobs. It is going to bring a higher level of education. And I understand the issue about not enough money for the public schools. I really do. It's deplorable. It's not the right thing. But the way we're going to improve that is we're going to have more jobs here, higher incomes that generate those taxes so we can put more money back into the public schools. I think we need to look at expanding the district to make it a larger district in the future. I look forward to Mr. Yamazaki, working with him to bring new businesses here. We're going to go out and we're going to visit with Genentech. We're going to visit with Facebook. We're going to visit with Google. They're going to be wanted to be located directly adjacent to the university, and we're going to need some places for them to that to occur. And so we need to look at this is the first step at how can we expand that in the future. And finally, we've got a big problem here. The PDC is going to run out of money, and the PDC has done enormous things for this city, for the community, and I'm extraordinarily proud of everything that they've accomplished. But we are going to need new funding sources. So what are we going to do? We need to go down to the legislature. We need to get the legislation changed so we can expand the urban renewal areas on the east side and take care of the needs that are over there. It's not just about the central city. It's about the whole city of Portland. We need to look for other revenue sources. Maybe those are parking under our parking lots. Maybe the Fields Park's going to have parking under there where we can generate revenue. and we need to look at taking advantage of the property that the city currently owns and how we're going to develop it. All that, thank you. My question for Keith is student housing. Will that qualify for the 30% set aside for housing?
I think that the policy, which was just kind of restated and approved by the council right now, does not have student housing in it. And if that was to happen, it would have to be a conversation among the city council and among the stakeholders. But right now, it's not part of the policy.
I don't know who's at lower income than students, I can tell you that. And so I just don't understand that. I think that the public is behind supporting student housing. That's what makes great universities. I'm certainly all behind that.
Commissioner Dixon?
Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I also am a big supporter of this new ED URA. I think it's very visionary, and I'm very pleased with all the work that you've done on the campus. I actually attended St. Mary's Academy back in the 90s. Now I'm dating myself, but I remember going on to the Portland State University campus almost every other day for lunch and going in and out of the different buildings. So I always felt like it was a very open and inclusive campus to people that were in that district. This is obviously a controversial topic that we're going through right now, and there are a lot of different concerns. But what I'm really happy with is that we have, and that Portland State has been able to have a partnership with Multnomah County and with the Portland Public Schools. I think that this is a good step towards building some of these areas where people are not feeling as comfortable, and so that makes me feel more positive to being able to go forward with this initiative. I really hope that enrollment, as this does become a world-class facility, that tuition and that students from throughout the city will be able to afford to go to Portland State University, because I definitely don't want to see it become so world-class that a lot of our population is left out of being able to attend and afford the university. So, those are all issues that I hope that as we're working together, we take into consideration as we're making this a world-class facility, that people are part of the inclusion.
I couldn't agree with you more on the latter point particularly, and I tell people that, yes, we are about access, excellence, and impact. And indeed, while we strive to be world-class, we will never aim to be a university that becomes so selective that only people with a 3.9 GPA can get in. Right now, you have a 3.0 GPA, you're in. I hope to keep it that way. We want to have people who can do the university work, but we are here to serve this metropolitan region. 65% or so of our students come from the Tri-County area. That's about right.
Thank you. Commissioner Mullis?
Well, thank you for coming in today, President Vell, and being part of this. And I don't have any specific questions for you, and I won't restate many of the comments that have been made by my fellow commissioners, but I agree with them, especially what Commissioner Strauss said. But to me, this is exactly the kind of bold, visionary steps that we need to look at taking. And I think now is the time, as we're coming out of this recession, we need to be on the forefront of trying to attract these high-paying R&D jobs, higher education, more high-paying jobs with benefits. That's what's going to help us grow out of the economy and, in turn, create more money for the county, more money for schools, all the things we've already discussed. So thanks for helping lead this effort.
So I know that we're holding you over already by 10 minutes, but so I wanted to get the questions to you. And I, too, as you well know, have appreciated getting to know you since you've come into Portland. Continue to think you're doing a wonderful job for Portland State and for the city as well. Everybody appreciates your leadership and partnership. You are seen at business associations, neighborhood associations, city council, whenever you're needed. And I don't know how you spread yourself so thin sometimes, but everybody appreciates it. And we look forward to helping you make this one of the greatest universities in the world.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being working with everybody on the PDC staff, the city staff, and this will be an exciting next 6 weeks as we have about a hearing every day, I believe. Thank you.
You're excused. But you guys aren't. There was a couple things that I wanted to talk about in particular. First of all, and we do hear this from time to time, we get reminded of blight. And blight with regard to urban renewal districts is not the blight that we normally think of as everyday citizens. And so you talked about it a little bit, but I'd love to have you be a little bit more specific in terms of blight is a defined term with regard to qualifying, and I'd love more detail with that. And I see one of our attorneys coming forward. So.
Commissioners, Lisa Gramp, Assistant General Counsel. Blight. Under the statute, blight really concerns physical conditions, and the statutory definition of blight has 9 fairly broad categories of what constitutes blight. Our General Counsel is fond of saying this is not blight in the Oliver Twist sense of the word of blight, right? I mean, blight under the statute can be, for example, inadequate access to open space or changing uses in buildings that are inconsistent with the original intent, making those buildings unfit. That said, so it's very broad. And that said, this is a great map. Not every parcel within an area needs to have an indication of blight. Really, the area as a whole needs to be determined to be blighted. And we believe, and I think this map does a great job of reflecting that based on the improvement to land value ratios that you see there, as well as building conditions and street conditions, we believe the area as a whole is blighted. And that finding is a finding that City Council makes based on the data that's included in the technical report that's accompanying the plan that you have in your packet. And that's where that information is contained.
Any other questions from commissioners on that particular point? Yep. Great, thank you. Answered it quite well. Okay. I wanted to talk just in general about the question about the general comments about a committee being formed. We are actually in the middle of reviewing our Urban Renewal Advisory Committee strategy at this point, or not strategy, but policy. And we've been working on that for several months, and it's not completed. And with it going to be completed over the next few months, I think the thought has been once that policy has been reset, there definitely will be some sort of oversight group that will be helping us in the future over the next 29 years of this district if it goes forward. Am I missing something? Am I off course here?
No, you're not. And it's going to be about a year before the district has any resources. And I think that some of the ideas that we've been throwing around, and one of the methods that under Executive Director Quinton we do with the Neighborhood Leadership Group, which I think is a good model, is first of all we look at this area and we look at the mission and the strategic goals of PDC, and then the mission of this district. And we'll probably want to form an oversight group and invite people to apply to be a part of it that believe inherently in the objectives and the outcomes of this URA, and go through it methodically once we know the district's actually in place, because time is on our side in terms of forming that group.
Okay. The question about what it would be used for was kind of in two different pieces. What would it be used for from a housing standpoint, which is quite frankly out of our hands. And the second one in terms of internally, and I know Portland State we've been working on a list of projects, and the potential list is far beyond the resources. That's not too surprising by any stretch of the imagination. And we are looking at a district that, if you understand TIF ramps up over time, there's certain upfront costs, so there's a lot of analysis, not only analysis that needs to be done, but we don't know, Portland State doesn't know what they're going to need 15 years from now. They do know that there will be projects that will be necessary. They do know that there's often a lot of times to provide a lot of leverage with the funds that are available. Universities often are given in that situation. But over the next couple of weeks, I think we are going to present it's kind of a general plan of proposed projects within the district.
Yeah, and it'll be a lot of the things that, I spoke fairly quickly when I went through the slides at the beginning of the presentation, that it's things like expanding the business school, it's adding more business accelerators, it's research facilities. There's some specifics in terms of enhancing the academic capacity of the district, projects such as Newburger Hall redevelopment, Knowledge Commons, Kramer Hall, expansion of science facilities. There's a number of different things that fall within those 6 categories, and then you add on the partnerships with PPS and the county that are projects either in name or at least in category that we've spelled out over 5-year increments, the resources that are available to pursue each one of those objectives.
And, Chair, if I add, I think everybody wants specificity and detail, and I think we all appreciate that. I think if you look at previous urban renewal plans, they really focused primarily on the larger objectives around housing, jobs, and parks and open spaces. Some of them had very specific purposes around, building the yellow line max. But this plan, I think, given the constraints I've just been talked about, is a fairly detailed plan. It's actually, like people have been saying, it's true. It's far more strategic and focused than just about any plan. And so the plan tries to lay out how the money will be spent within the constraints of PSU not really knowing 10 years from now how it's, when it's going to undertake a certain project. But they've identified buildings and projects, and we've tried to do that as well as the county and PSU coming together. So within the realities that we operate over a 30-year period, I think the plan actually provides a fair amount of specificity. Once again, I know people would love to see how every single dollar is going to be spent right now before a vote happens, but I think we're trying to balance that with it being not really reality-based and just being speculative. And I think we have a nice balance in the document between the ambitions for the district, the knowledge that PSU has in particular about its campus plans, but also just leaving flexibility for the unknowns that we know will happen over 30 years.
Can I ask Executive Director Quinton a question? I've been through 4 urban renewal expansions since I've been on this board. And to that point, if we look at any one of those, were all of the dollars specified as far as how they would be spent, to your knowledge? Is this any different than any of the prior situations?
No, I think probably the closest to this is the GEM list that was developed as part of the North-Northeast expansion, and that was more of a priority list. But to my knowledge, there weren't dollars attached to those. It was just an expression of priorities. But I think this and the North-Northeast expansion, I think, are the 2 most kind of detailed plans that we produce as part of either a new URA or an expansion.
And Chair Andrews, can I ask Patrick one more question? Please. I'll ask a question that's probably burning a lot of minds. One of the expansion projects that I was involved with touched on affecting David Douglas High School. And I can see people in the community saying, well, why Lincoln? And I think we need to touch on that publicly from the perspective of this is a strategic expansion, but there are schools out there who are suffering. And I personally was involved with Superintendent Carol Smith in helping to try to advance the bond proposals because we know there are schools out there that are suffering, particularly structurally. We can't have our kids going to unsafe schools. Also, operationally, we have to be able to operate the schools once we invest in them. So would you shed some light on, if I'm a citizen out there addressing, as Ms. Block did and Mr. Fruits came up, I believe that was his name, why Lincoln? We don't need to rebuild Lincoln. Are we talking about rebuilding Lincoln High School?
Well, I certainly don't want to speak on behalf of the Portland Public Schools. So in our conversations, it hasn't been talked about as rebuilding Lincoln. So that's hasn't been part of the conversation. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not speaking for the school district. And I think the inclusion of the site is because we believe a lot of folks who believe that it's an underdeveloped downtown site that has significant potential. And we believe, and I think the school district in our conversations believes that there's potential to increase the utilization of that site without having to rebuild Lincoln High School, without having to invest new money in the school itself. So, I don't think, I think it's fair to raise these issues. I think they're legitimate issues, but I don't think it's fair to assume that there's been a decision made to rebuild Lincoln High School just because it's being included in there. The inclusion gives us the opportunity to do something at that site. It doesn't guarantee that something happens on that site. And I guess the last thing I would say, and I know this is not necessarily a fully, people can have a counterpoint to this, but to the extent that the public schools are able to raise money to do capital improvements on other facilities, it might make it possible that there's more money available for other schools because there's money available for Lincoln here. But I'm just, that's just one way to look at the issue here. But once again, I think ultimately the public schools will be the ones that are going to drive what happens on that site. And there's some dollars that we have earmarked for whatever happens there.
I'd like to ask one question. Sure. So, Keith, voting for this new urban renewal area doesn't require that we dedicate any of the funds to Lincoln High School, right?
Correct.
But it does give us the opportunity to explore public-private partnerships. Maybe there's a medical office building that's on that campus that serves the students in the most cost-effective way and provides medical care directly to those students. So I think it opens the door for those things, but it doesn't mandate that we rebuild Lincoln High School or that any of those funds be utilized for Lincoln High School. Is that correct?
Correct.
I could throw something in that I think might be pertinent to the discussion. Last late summer, early fall, Superintendent Smith appointed a task force that's currently looking at how are we going to address the facilities issues that we all know that we have in Portland Public Schools. How are we going to prioritize them? Which schools are possibly going to be closed? Which ones are going to be torn down and rebuilt? Which ones are going to be remodeled? How are we going to, if we're going to remodel a school and bring the wiring and everything up to date, should we seismically retrofit that building at the same time? And so it's about a 45-member person-member task force. I'm one of those members. We've met, I think, 5 times. There was a meeting last night, unfortunately, that I couldn't attend due to a conflict, but it's a very open and very public process. I think there's another 3 or 4 meetings left before we make some recommendations as far as what a future bond measure might look like. But I would encourage anybody that's interested in these issues to go to Portland Public's website. I haven't looked at it, but I'm sure it's very well documented on that site and what the task force has done to date and the dates, times, places of future meetings.
Great, thank you.
And just one more thing, if I might. We have not got at all into specifics as far as what's going to happen in what buildings yet.
Okay. The only other point I wanted to make, because I had gotten a couple of questions in the last few days about it, and you brought it up, Morgan, to begin with, but the Oregon Sustainability Center was deliberately left out of this district. Anything that happens with Oregon Sustainability Center will come out of the existing district. This is not an attempt to be able to provide more dollars for that project. So that's a point, not a question. You've got.
I have said one other thing for the record. The Portland Business Alliance provided a letter of support to the chair and to the board for the urban renewal area, and I'll distribute that after the hearing.
The only other point I would make is, I indicated earlier, I'm affiliated with another institution of higher education other than Arizona State. And when we're talking about this publicly, we want to be clear that we have 2 world-class research institutes that we're working with. So
I think Jim made that.
He did. I've read some things that leave one of them out. So I want to be clear. We're working on having another world-class research institute.
Okay, so I will remind everyone again, we are not going to vote on the district, on approval of the district, which would actually be a recommendation to City Council of approval on the district until April 30th. but we will be voting on the amendments to the South Park blocks and the intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County. Are there any other questions or points that people want to make since we've got?
I do too.
Please. Go ahead.
And for the information, or for the meeting that is taking place at PSU on the 17th, is the public going to be able to speak at that as well? And will we get some of that feedback from that event?
Yes. Well, I mean, essentially, it's going to be Executive Director and President Vivel providing a presentation, and then the ability to break down into small groups and meet with individual members of Portland State and the Portland Development Commission to learn a lot more about the proposal and the details and everything. And we will be able to provide feedback to the board afterwards so you know what was said, and you can incorporate that into your decision on the 30th.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Just a couple things. I'd just like to thank everyone that took the time to come in and testify today, whether it was yes, no, or slow down. And I think I'd just like to speak to some of the concerns that some of the folks brought up about affordable housing. I think we all support affordable housing. I know one of the districts that was recently expanded that Commissioner Wilhoit spoke to was the Lentz district, and they have a very active neighborhood association out there. When that expansion was approved, there wasn't any details at all about specific housing projects. I think the important thing to look at is if this is approved, it's going to create X amount of dollars for new affordable housing projects inside that district. And then my hope would be is that folks in that area get involved, get on the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee that helps guide and make those decisions. Because my office is in Lentz. I go to some of the meetings when I can, and the neighbors that live in that area have had great influence in the housing decisions that are made in that district, as they well should. Thank you.
You know, I will also point out that I think Commissioner Fish did make the statement that he was looking forward to working collaboratively with Portland State on mixed-use projects. So, again, there haven't been decisions been made with regard to it, but they haven't ruled out co-partnering on housing and joint, multi-use facilities. Anything else? Okay, we'll take these one at a time. I would look for a motion to approve Resolution 6933. This is approving the 11th Amendment to the South Park Blocks Urban Renewal Plan, amending Section 900, and this has to do with the procedures for changing an approved urban renewal plan.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Resolution 6934, approving the proposed 12th Amendment to the South Park Blocks Urban Renewal Plan, removing 58.4 acres from the plan area. Could I get a motion?
Approval.
I'd second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's 6936, which is the intergovernmental agreement with the county.
I move approval.
I second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank you for the testimony, and we'll make sure that the thoughts get incorporated, and there's other avenues for input.
Thanks.
You out of here? Yeah, I've got that one.
They want me to go. They want me to go.
To the game, huh?
I'm not going to the game. They want me to do some little. Are you going to the game?
Can't answer that right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to the game, then why don't you go with him? Why do they need me to go?
These other two items we need to get done.
The meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going anywhere, pal. All right, two more items, both of which we need to deal with today because they are time sensitive. First one on the agenda, number 7, it's Resolution 6938, requesting City Council to issue bonds for the Oregon Convention Center Urban Renewal Area and providing for related matters. Welcome, Faye.
Thank you. Chair Andrews, Commissioners, Executive Director Quinton, my name is Faye Brown, and I'm the interim CFO of PDC. With the approval of Resolution 6938, the Commission will request the City Council issue bonds for the Oregon Convention Center Urban Renewal Area. Additionally, the Commission will authorize the Executive Director and the City on behalf of the Commission to execute agreements and take actions necessary to issue, sell, and deliver the bonds on terms favorable to the Commission and the City. The total amount of the bonds is anticipated to be $69.8 million, which will be sufficient to retire the existing $30 million line of credit and provide approximately $39.7 million for projects in the district and for the cost of the issuance of the bonds. Issuance of the bonds will facilitate the Commission's ability to carry out the Oregon Convention Center Urban Renewal Area Plan. And the plan has a last date to issue debt of June 30, 2013. However, current market is favorable due to the low interest rate environment, especially for well-rated taxable bonds such as the OCC bonds. The 15-year interest rate for bonds like these bonds is currently just over 5%. As recently as in 2011, we were modeling these bonds with a 6% interest rate, so the market has definitely improved. Our expectation is that borrowing rates will eventually begin to rise, so issuing now ensures that we're able to capture the favorable long-term rates. As a point of comparison, an analysis prepared earlier this year, which assumed issuance in June 2013, the last date to issue the bonds, resulted in $10 million of additional debt service. Issuing in the current market will allow these bonds to be issued without a debt service reserve, which provides an additional $4.5 million for projects in the area. Also, issuing under the currently favorable interest rates also allows a shorter final maturity, currently aimed at 13 years, or a final maturity in fiscal year 25, which means that assessed value can be returned to the overlapping districts earlier than originally anticipated. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
It's just bad news. I mean, the interest rate's lower than we thought. We can pay them off quicker than we thought. I'll remind the Commission that as short as 2 years ago, maybe even shorter than that, we didn't think we could get to the maximum indebtedness, or in order to do so, we were going to have to issue some funky zero-interest bonds for some period of time, which OMF was not a big fan of to begin with. And actually, things have gotten so much better that the reserve that often is necessary to set aside, they've tested it and they don't have to do that, which means that there's $4.5 million that it would be available perhaps at the end of this payoff period in 2025, but is now going to be paid off earlier. So
fiscal home run. The only thing that could make it better is if there was no interest.
Free money.
But I don't think we're going to get that. So
we'd like free money. Yeah. Any questions? Could I get a motion to approve Resolution 6938, requesting the City Council to issue bonds for Oregon Convention Center Urban Renewal Area and providing for related matters?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tony Barnes. This is Resolution 6939, also an action item authorizing fiscal year 2011-12 budget amendment number 3, some of the usual year-end cleanup.
Being an accounting and financial guy, Tony, you should know that I asked them to put this first on the agenda. They didn't listen to me. We know what's exciting, right?
This is a good way to...
You have our attention.
That's right.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Andrews, Commissioners, Executive Director Quinton. This is the action before you is to formally amend the current fiscal year 11-12 adopted PDC budget for the third time this year. We anticipate this will be the last budget amendment of this fiscal year as we've looked at our forecasted revenues and expenditures through the last quarter of the fiscal year and made some adjustments. We've recognized several items that we already included in the requested budget that was before you back in January. We had to take some dollars out of this current year budget because we already anticipated spending those dollars next fiscal year. There's some additional adjustments, including this amendment, that's moving dollars to 1213 as well. So both in URAs as well as non-URA projects and programs that have been included or will be included are being adjusted in this budget amendment. There's also amendments associated with the Portland Housing Bureau, IGA. It's a reduction of around $10 million due to a combination of cost savings on certain projects as well as projects just like PDC projects that are being moved into the future fiscal years based on timing. And finally, there's some adjustments for the Central City Plan IGA with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability that's being included. I believe that action will be before you on the April 30th Commission meeting for the ongoing 2035 Central City Plan. The total dollars being included in this year's budget for that amendment is approximately $490,000, but we'll revisit that on April 30th. The resource picture comparing the current revised budget to the final revised budget, we're going from a total of $179 million to $191 million. So it's an addition of $11.5 million where we're mainly adjusting resources to recognize tax increment proceeds, mainly from the OCC bond sale that Faye just presented that will be happening in May. So the total long-term debt, as you can see, is going up approximately $12.7 million. That includes this bond sale, but it also includes a lot of reductions in other URAs where we don't need to borrow on lines of credit this fiscal year because of projects being moved to future fiscal years. So the net increase is $12.7 million. You'll see a couple other adjustments to resources. Property income is going down by $950,000. That's mainly associated with just truing up timing for land sales or leases in the Airport Way urban renewal area that will be included in future fiscal years, as well as an increase in loan collections of around $1 million. That's primarily associated with an early collection in the Oregon Convention Center URA with a specific loan that paid off. And again, on the requirement side, by business line, it's a net reduction of $19.7 million across the board. But if you reviewed Exhibit A to the resolution, there are specific URA by URA adjustments where some of these business lines are actually being increased. I'll point your attention to, in Exhibit A, page 24, the South Park Blocks URA Fund. You'll recognize a decrease in business development business line of $800,000, but that's really being offset by an increase to property redevelopment of $800,000. It's really about truing up what loan programs certain loans are being made out of, whether it's a business development type loan program versus property redevelopment. That change is specifically associated with the Target Galleria loan in South Park Blocks.
Great.
But in total, we have about a reduction of $19 million across the board that will be mainly put into future fiscal years. The contingency is being increased by $32.1 million, and that's mainly related to the bond sale at OCC, since most of those bond proceeds will be spent in future fiscal years in the 5-year forecast. I believe I walked through most of these adjustments. Administration, there is a decrease. That's mainly related to the financial systems consolidation work. Half of that actually is being moved to the next fiscal year, as well as reclassifying the Central City Plan work that I mentioned. That's mainly reclassifying that work as administrative to property redevelopment, since the goal is future property redevelopment of the districts. And the business development and infrastructure line items across the board, the decreases are mainly related to current contracts or loans that will disperse in future fiscal years.
So no one should interpret that as we're not going to make the business development investment. It's just because of the timing of the related contracts.
Right. Those dollars will likely be included in future amendments to the 5-year plan. In some cases, they already have been in the requested budget. I mentioned the housing decrease of around $10.5 million. There was some project cost savings on the Bud Clark Commons, as well as carryover specific projects that will be dispersing in July onward into the new fiscal year, and wrapped back into the overall TIF set-aside. Property redevelopment, again, there's a net reduction of $4.4 million, but I mentioned there's specific commercial property redevelopment loans in South Park blocks and downtown waterfront that needs extra appropriation to get those loans out the door. So there are some dollars being added in those districts. And my last slide just demonstrates the overall split of resources by business line between what was originally adopted in the 11-12 budget and what's before you today in the 11-12 final revised budget. $181 million in expenditures in this final budget compared to about $156 million in the adopted budget. The primary change overall, whoops, get this back on.
Property redevelopment.
There we go. Back.
Yeah, it's getting going.
Yeah. Thank you. Mainly looking at property redevelopment. Went from about $47 million to $63.8 million. And that's mainly related with the last budget amendment in January, where we added dollars for Veterans Memorial Coliseum. That's the main overall change to the split of resources between the budget that was adopted last June and the budget that's the changes in the budget today overall between categories. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, and there was a very good summary of this actually in your board packet, page 2 of 3. Always so many line items to deal with, but Tony does a fantastic job. Any questions?
And great job, Patrick, on getting your administrative costs down below 10%. Thank you.
Perfect. So I would look for a motion to approve Resolution 6939, authorizing fiscal year 2011-12 budget amendment number 3.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
As always.
Thank you. A very nice job of bringing this stuff forward, and thank goodness somebody can keep track of all the lines. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.